We've just been told that the bookies are now making the Labour candidate, who is no longer standing, into the favourite for this by-election. So we're just going out to try and get the last voters out. There's 2 hours left. So come and we'll show you what happens.
Yeah.
Have you voted? You have? Oh, thank you. Right, so they've just voted. They just said they voted with hand gestures, so that's positive.
Do hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows.
Azhar Ali, Labour Party candidate, 2,402. Simon Christopher Danchuk, Reform UK candidate, 1,968. Ian Donaldson, Liberal Democrat candidate, 2,164. Paul Simon Ellison, the Conservative Party candidate, 3,731. George Galloway, Workers' Party of Britain candidate, 12,003. David Anthony Tully, Independent candidate, 6,600. I do hereby declare that George Galloway is duly.
Keir Starmer, this is for Gaza. You have paid and you will pay a high price for the role that you have played in enabling, encouraging and covering for the catastrophe presently going on in occupied Palestine in the Gaza Strip. I want to tell Mr. Starmer above all that the plates have shifted tonight. And as Jacob Rees-Mogg just said on television, in talking of me as a parliamentary orator of note, that Keir Starmer's problems just got 100 times more serious than they were before today. This is going to spark a movement, a landslide, a shifting of the tectonic plates in scores of parliamentary constituencies, beginning here in the Northwest, in the West Midlands, in London, from Ilford to Bethnal Green and Bow. Labour is on notice that they have lost the confidence of millions of their voters who loyally and traditionally voted for them generation after generation. I've heard some of the narrative being spun around this election result this evening. Yes, it's true that every Muslim is bitterly angry at Keir Starmer and his misnamed Labour Party. But you would be very foolish if you did not realise that millions of other citizens of our country are too. Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak are two cheeks of the same backside, and they both got well and truly spanked tonight here in Rochdale. And trust that even the most biased journalist in the room will realise that this is the first time ever in British political history that the two big parties of the state were thoroughly and soundly beaten. Yes! And I think that will not have been missed in Downing Street and wherever Keir Starmer currently hangs out. God bless you. God bless Rochdale. God bless Gaza.
This is the start. It's not the finish. What Rochdale has proven is that the two main parties have been rejected, not just by Rochdale, but you will see that across the board. We've had people from Oldham, Blackburn, Preston, Bolton, from the South, Midland, Bradford, come and visit George, because what they want to do is they want to mirror this within their own communities.
Everyone's out here cheering every candidate who comes out because it's a good election. It's in the right spirit, this election, whatever the media says.
Well, this is a historic result, and I think it will send shockwaves through the Palace of Westminster. We've got George Galloway elected by a landslide tonight, and George is probably the best orator in the world, and so Sir Keir Starmer had better watch out.
Do you think that Keir Starmer does believe that there should be a ceasefire in Gaza?
If you believe it, I've got a bridge in London I could sell you going cheap. Nobody believes it. If he really did, he wouldn't have wrecked the SNP motion in the House just a week or so ago. He would have backed the SNP's motion. Or better, he'd have called a debate himself and put his own motion down. He didn't do any of those things. He preferred to force the Speaker into a monstrous manipulation of parliamentary conventions and cause the scenes that you all saw in the House of Commons. No, he's a phony. He's doing everything that he can to protect Israel from the righteous wrath of the international community and the people of Britain.
What's your goal here? You crush the two main parties tonight. You try to crush the Labour Party.
I'd love to crush the Labour Party. I see it as my mission in life. I don't know if Sky will allow me to quote Malcolm X, but the difference between the wolf and the fox is this. The wolf is quite clear about its intentions, and as it comes towards you, you know what it's going to do. The fox, on the other hand, looks like it's smiling, looks like it's friendly. That's the difference between the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. And so my ire against the Labour Party is for precisely that reason. The Tories don't pretend to be friends of the people. The Labour Party does.
When you walk into Parliament, you know what's going to happen. They're going to accuse you of anti-Semitism, and they're going to say that you are somebody who encourages hate. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's what I'll be saying to them that I'll be concerned about. I'm one of the few people in the country, I suppose, that has a certificate of the falsity of that charge, in that twice in the High Court in London I have won libel cases against people who accuse me of being an anti-Semite. And there may be another one. Your colleague, Rachel Johnson, she was on your station, and I'm suing Sky and Rachel Johnson for precisely that kind of totally false, baseless, egregious, and vicious accusation.
People take different positions on key subjects. A lot of people think that the phrase "from the river to the sea" is racist and anti-Semitic. Do you?
Are there really a lot of people? I appreciate there are a lot of people in the media bubble, in the political class, who at least pretend to. But what is objectionable about people being free between a river and a sea?
Jewish people think it's intimidatory, and they think it's
not the Jewish people. Not the Jewish people on the demonstrations for Gaza chanting it. Some Jewish people say that they find it these things, but
is that something worth respecting?
No, because the Palestinians have a right to be free, and they have a right to be free between the river and the sea. Now, if you're really asking me what should be the final state of affairs in Israel-Palestine, well, my position is quite well known. I think there should be one democratic and secular state between the river and the sea. And if I was doing their marketing, I'd call it the Holy Land.
So you don't want Israel to exist?
Well, no state has a right to exist. Not the Soviet Union, not Czechoslovakia, not the Zionist apartheid state of Israel. I believe that the best solution for everybody is, as it was in South Africa, freed from apartheid, a democratic state where white people and black people, Jews, Christians, Muslims, live as equal citizens under the law. That's what I believe. I appreciate you don't believe it, and that there are others who don't believe it, but it's a legitimate view. It's one that has already been adjudged in law in Britain to be a legitimate one, and I hold it, and I got a mandate for it tonight.
What happens there now? On the line, we've got Sean from the Workers' Party, who was in the office all those days, all through the campaign. How you doing, Sean?
I'm tired. I'm getting some well-earned rest.
And what did you make of? It's been a bit of a roller coaster. I mean, all the time up to the count was pretty intense, obviously for you, and then since then you haven't really had a rest because of all the media stuff and attacks and whatever. What do you make of it? Has George really rattled the cage?
Yeah, definitely. I think I said last week when I was on that the establishment are scared. They're bloody scared of him. And I think that was meted out with the amount of media that was there on Saturday night. So George had called on Saturday evening a celebration. So we were having a party for all the volunteers to come along, speak to George, congratulate him. We were having food, chatting with the community, all that kind of stuff. But when we arrived, I was actually in the office I was tidying up in the garage next door. I mean, you were there. It was a dusty old garage that we were operating from. Yeah. So I was tidying up in there. I was in my scruffs, and somebody said, "John, you need to come over." So I went over to the showroom, and it was just full of media. So they'd all gate crashed this party. No one had invited them. And when I walked in, the Sam Coates from Sky News had got his iPad open, and he was making us watch the Prime Minister's speech. And we were just gobsmacked, absolutely appalled that Rishi Sunak had called a press conference because George had won the by-election. He was saying that it's dangerous on our streets, calling radical Islam. George is a divisive figure, and all of this business. George was the unifying candidate. He's a unity candidate. He brings people together. That's what he does. I mean, you were up there, Crispin. What did you think of the people that were working on the campaign? I've made so many new friends, and I have links now to Rochdale that I will be going back. I don't live in Rochdale, but I have links there now, and I've made very good friends, and I'll be certainly keeping in contact with them. I mean, what did you feel about the campaign, the atmosphere?
It was a great energy, spirit. That like I showed in the clip earlier, after the count, everyone was cheering every candidate who came out, whatever their party. They were all being in the spirit of we've had a good election, the democracies. What we're upholding. I didn't detect any division other than from people who wanted to make George into a sort of bogeyman, and they kept using this divisive word, which was just, there was no evidence of that whatsoever.
Did you hear what Richard Tice had said?
Yeah. I mean, we watched it on the screen while we were waiting for the result. We saw his stuff, and it didn't make any sense to us at all. There's obviously going to be people who support George who are going to word something a bit wrong, but the way that Richard Tice had blown it up as some sort of terror threat and intimidation, death threats and all that, I just didn't see that evidence of that at all. But what I want to do now is show not people, because no one's seen what you look like, they just know your voice. So what I want to do now is play the clip that's gone viral from the Sam Coates. So you said he came in to the gate crashed the party, showed everyone, tried to ruin the party by showing Rishi Sunak. Well, this is what happened when he approached George Galloway to talk about what Rishi Sunak had said, and I was going to play that clip now. If I can find the right button in my tiredness, and I'm not as tired as you, obviously. Here we go.
I got more votes than Labour and the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats and the Reform Party put together, which adds up to a pretty crushing rejection of the two-party system. So I understand why he's alarmed.
I want you to address some of the specifics that the Prime Minister said about you this evening. He said that you backed Hezbollah. Is that true?
I don't know what that means, backed Hezbollah. I oppose Israel's occupation of Lebanon, and I respect the right of people in occupied territory to resist their occupier. And I've done so since Hezbollah was formed and Israel occupied much of Lebanon, right up to the Litani River, regularly bombing Beirut and so on. So I'm not sure what business that is of his, because you see,
Hezbollah are a terrorist organisation.
Actually, they're part of the government of Lebanon, a country with which we have sovereign diplomatic relations. I had this debate with Sky's Anna Botting in 2006. It's quite an epic clip. You should watch it. More than 100 million people have. They said all these things about me in the by-election. And in the by-election, it was them that got crushed in the democratic process. So I'm not sure why he would reheat it now.
The Prime Minister is saying that you are...
This is God. We're talking about little Rishi Sunak in the fag end of his prime ministership. Don't talk to me as if he's come down from the mount with tablets of stone. The things that he says are somehow meant to awe me. They may awe you, they don't awe me.
A lot of people have just watched what the Prime Minister said. This is your opportunity to respond to what he said.
Well,
he says that there are forces here at home trying to tear us apart. He is implying you are a divisive figure. You have run an election campaign that has tried to appeal particularly, not entirely, to one section of the community.
Who won the election? Me or Rishi Sunak? I've got the democratic mandate here, not Rishi Sunak. He didn't even come second. He was lucky to come third. So don't put to me statements made by Rishi Sunak as if I'm supposed to be impressed by them. He don't impress me much.
We at Sky have spent some time today on the streets of Rochdale, and there are people who say that they feel intimidated by people like you and the people that have supported you.
I have just
and they have pointed out that you have concentrated your campaign on foreign affairs, and they worry that Rochdale will not be the winner.
That's my answer to you. I was just elected with a thumping majority by the electorate in Rochdale. That's all that matters to me.
So why are there people in the streets of Rochdale today worried?
Well, people voted yesterday, and they voted for me. Why is that difficult for you to grasp?
Why are there people on the streets worried?
There may be people who didn't vote for me who are worried, but the majority, the thumping majority, voted for me. I've got the mandate, and I'm going to the House of Commons with it.
And it's a mandate, you think, to do what? Because there are people that listen to what you say about whether or not Israel has a right to exist, what you say about what many Jewish people think are threatening
We had this
slogans.
conversation last night. Why are you reheating it?
Because in the light of the Prime Minister's
Don't keep
statement...
telling me about the Prime Minister as if he was Moses.
Do you not respect the Prime Minister?
Do I respect the Prime Minister? I despise the Prime Minister. And guess what? Guess what? Millions and millions and millions of people in this country despise the Prime Minister. I don't respect the Prime Minister at all.
What are you planning to do next week when you arrive in Parliament?
Well, I'm meeting the Speaker on Monday morning, and then I'll be introduced and sworn in. I'll be escorted by the Right Honourable David Davis MP, former Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party. I don't know why he would do that if he thought I was the kind of man you're clearly implying that I am. David Davis is one of the great parliamentarians of today and this age. And I'll be taking my seat in the House of Commons and speaking for the people of Rochdale. That's what I was elected to do.
And what is your message also to Keir Starmer?
My message to Keir Starmer is that the skids are under you in scores of Labour seats up and down the country because you've lost the trust, you've lost the confidence of millions of your traditional loyal voters.
Now we have now had an election where two of the candidates have alleged intimidation. The Prime Minister referenced that intimidation in his address on the steps of
to the Prime Minister as if that's supposed to impress me. The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister is a rather diminutive, diminished and degraded politician. He made a party political statement. I don't care about Rishi Sunak's attitude. What I care about is that the returning officer, a man of unimpeachable integrity, I'm sure you'll agree, declared it a free and fair election and me as the winner, and Rishi Sunak as one of the crushed two big parties in the state.
So why are two candidates
keep repeating the same questions to me because I have other people to talk to? So let's make this the last one, shall we? We got a party to deal with.
Allegations of intimidation, allegations that your supporters intimidated other candidates.
Five times you've said that. The returning officer declared it last night. You were there as a free and fair election, and me as the winner.
And the Electoral Commission today have said that they're going to look and talk to the parties.
You have to just suck it up. I won the election.
George Galloway, thank you very much indeed. That was George Galloway with his supporters now shouting bye-bye. Live on Sky News with his first reaction to the address by the Prime Minister. You can see some of the reaction to the way that George Galloway has responded to the Prime Minister's speech, to that extraordinary Friday night address on the steps of Downing Street. And you can see some of the atmosphere that I think the people of Rochdale have experienced themselves during this by-election over the last few days.
Whistle politics from our establishment politicians.
And you can see the febrile atmosphere and the anger in this room about an hour before a rally, a victory party for George Galloway's election is due to start. And you can hear the raw emotion addressed at other politicians and at others that criticise them. I think you've got in this room a flavour of the politics right now in Rochdale that this constituency has been witnessing for the last few weeks. This will, I think this, and you can see the way.
Sean, it seems like, I mean, he's just wrecked a party. He's come in, he's ruined the atmosphere. He's tried to make everyone feel, on the defensive. Why would anyone want to do interviews? Why would anyone allow people like him to come into any premises of anywhere? Why would you want to have him anywhere? This guy's ruined it, hasn't he?
Yeah, I know. And it was towards the end there when he was trying to make out that you can feel the anger in the room. There was hardly anybody there at that point. The majority of the people there were from the press, from every single channel you can imagine. We had photographers pushing past us and cameramen and, basically, pushing us out of the way in our own sort of celebratory party. We had kids riding up and down, if you see at the back of him, on the bikes. So if he was in any danger, it'd been more from getting run over by the kids, on their bikes. But I was absolutely furious. I was the person in the red jumper. For those of you that don't know me, but what made me have to speak out at that point was the point that he was trying to make out that we were angry. We were like an angry mob. And it was the fact that we were angry at the politicians. We were angry at Rishi Sunak. We were angry at Liz Truss, who'd made those disgusting remarks when speaking to Steve Bannon earlier on that week from the CPAC meeting. We've had Jenrick in the House of Commons making disgusting comments about us and about George, and about the wonderful Muslim community in Rochdale. That, you know, they've been absolutely brilliant, and I was furious, and I had to get over that point that we were angry at the establishment politicians for using dog whistle politics. It's cheap, it's nasty, it's dirty, and it's wrong.
Yeah, I think you did very well, and I like the way you started people doing the free Palestine. It was a great way.
It was an opportunity I couldn't miss because he was live, so he couldn't run away. And I thought, no, you've come here and you've disrupted everything, so I'm going to disrupt the rest of your interview.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was one of the best clips going. It seems to be going everywhere internationally. Americans are sharing the hell out of it.
Well, George was superb, wasn't he? I mean, just telling him to go and suck it up. Can you imagine Jeremy Corbyn doing that? It just wouldn't happen. Jeremy's a thoroughly nice guy, but George won't stand for it. He'll put these reporters in their place, and I think everyone's going to be looking forward to that and enjoying that for a change.
Well, I think he's getting the word out about Gaza because they want a story with him, and it's backfired, and I think they don't know how to cope with it because he's so articulate and to the point about this being about Gaza. They just didn't know how to deal with it. So do you think that's why Sunak's had to go out in an emergency and do this stupid speech?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's challenging the propaganda that that they've been putting out there, that the mainstream media hacks have been parroting from Rishi Sunak's office and Starmer's office about Palestine. You know, as we keep saying, this didn't start on October the 7th. In fact, I was watching, there's a clip actually going around on Twitter of George when he was last in Parliament, and he was giving a speech, and he was saying, and I think it was from 2014, so it must have been around the time of Operation Protective Edge or Castle Ed, I can't remember which one. And he was actually saying then, this didn't start on November the 24th or whatever the date was. This started 70 years ago, and it could be as true today. You know, he's going to be giving the same speech in Parliament that he gave 10 years ago, but updated. You know, it makes me so angry. It makes the people of this country angry to know that we are being ignored, that we are not being listened to, and this is why George has won the election, because people are making a stand, and the politicians that we have in the House of Commons at the moment are scared because they know that we're coming for them. We're coming for their seats.
Yeah, and they've got all their media chums, and they can get a lectern out on Downing Street. They've got quite a few resources to chuck around, but it's not really working yet.